One. And here we are on the 45 gate. This is one of the most important moments of the year because the 45 gate is money, and we're all going to make money. So it's all about money, money, money. Are we making money? Are we spending money? What are we doing? It's all about the money. So we have a little introduction, especially for all those people that have the 21 gate or the one that have the 45 and they can learn about themselves. So you're welcome to join this incarnation book of Ra, where he talks about the 45 gate. And I'm going to read it for you. The 45 has a difficult position. It has to be very, very concerned with the material. So it needs a great deal of yin in order to ground it on the material plane. And yet, the only way that you can truly be in control of material is if you know how to make material grow. In other words, you know how to bring in more material, motivate others for more material. Whatever the case may be, think about the nature of the 45. This is gathering together. This is the only throat gate expression of ego certainty. It's the only voice the tribe has. After all, most tribal communication is tactile. The only voice of the tribe is a voice that says, I have or I don't have. There's nothing more possessive, which is something we will see when we get to the juxtaposition. And yet, at the same time, the 45, despite the fact that it's there to gather the material, also has a responsibility as the ruler of the tribe. This is the expression, this is the potential manifestation of the tribal ego. All 45s are born with a sense, earned or not, of entitlement. They all assume that they are kings or queens, somewhere inside of them genetically, and that having and not having is going to be a major question in their lives. If you come into the round and you incarnate with your sun in the 45, you're going to be driven on the plane of material as power. This is material as power, and this is why you have these necessary yang aspects. That's the application of the yin, the way to penetrate with the yin. I always find it interesting to look at the four gates of rulership and think about what leadership really means. When you look at the 26, the polarity of the 45, you're looking at rulership through bullshit, rulership through salesmanship, rulership through jingoism, rulership through nationalism, rulership through fantasism, rulership driven by the tribal sword. When you look at the 22nd gate, you can see that rulership, to be truly mutative, must be willing to listen. And if you don't want to listen, you can never truly know how to rule. And the other thing is the magical gift, the polarity to the 22, the 47. One of those truly important keys to understanding what rulership is the ability to make sense out of nonsense. Ah, such a gift, to be a ruler that can make sense of the nonsensical, to make sense out of the irrational, to make sense out of the blunders. The whole making sense out of is one of those key ingredients. And when you look at rulership in that way, the only ruler that most of us want to trust is the 22. Those are the rulers. And you see when we have already been there with the 22 ruler. If you listen too much, the listeners will overwhelm you. The speaker will overwhelm you. You lose out on rulership. Rulership is all of this. And when you're dealing with a 45, you're dealing with the concretization of rulership. It can be as simple as having a thing on your desk that says the buck stops here, or drinking out of a mug that says I'm the boss. This is typical 45. If it weren't for the 45, we would never have titles. Never, never, never. You wonder where titles come from, the Duke and the Duchess or whatever. That's a 45 trip. As a matter of fact, you can buy these things today. On Facebook, you can see them everywhere. You can buy titles. It's up for sale. It's a typical 45 game. That somewhere in your blood was rulership. And for 45, that's enough. My great, 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 great grandfather was a butcher, and his people loved them. When the voice told me about the Wa, and the Wa is a very strange thing, what surprised me was all of this accentuation of the 45 gate and this deep potential within the 45 to be transformed from I have to we have. This is we have or we don't have. It's not something that's particularly easy for humans to get to. It's very much connected to our mutative process deep into the future and what the 45 will mean in an entire different vehicle and form, what the voice called the Eon. The 45 has a dilemma, and it's a dilemma that is shared in a way with manifestors. The 45 has lost its power, and it's lost its power to the 31. and it doesn't like it, and it's something to recognize. The 45 is the blood ruler. The ruler dies, and the son replaces him or daughter. This is the tribal rulership. This is based on territory and wealth and control. And of course, we have many examples of that in the world. We still have kinds whose sons inherit their thrones, like Abdullah from Jordan. We have dictators whose sons inherit their dictatorship, like we have with Kim in Korea and Assad in Syria. These are all kinds of examples of that manifestation of 45 politics. But the 31 has grown an enormous power. This is the collective leader. This is the so-called democratic model, even though the collective leader can be a dictator. Still, we have moved towards the collective leader, as opposed to the tribal leader. You can see this schism in the American Revolution from the English. They had a mad king. It was obvious he was. He was syphilic and crazy. He wandered around speaking bad German. He was out of his mind. He was a nut. And the Americans, who were nothing but runaway religious fanatics who had settled in America, most of them with Calvinist roots, they were really not interested in having 45 hierarchical rulership. They wanted to have collective rulership. They wanted to be able to choose their king. This was the marking line with the French Revolution. The revolution in Europe in the 1840s, there was the enormous movement in which the 45 began to lose its hold. So now basically most of those bloodlines that have remained on tourist attractions, Buckingham Palace makes a lot of money. You go to the palace in Madrid and it makes a lot of money. These are constitutional monarchs. They've given up their 45 power. They accept the control of the 31 leadership. So whenever you're dealing with a 45, if you want to understand something, there's a part of them that hates the collective leadership process. I don't want to have unions say the 45 entrepreneur. I want slaves. I don't want unions. I don't want any collective bargaining. I don't care what you all think. I don't know what's good for them. And of course, it's one of the themes of the 45. I don't know what's good for you. And it's most assaulted. The responsibility of the 45 is that you're only allowed to collect taxes if you build schools, if you educate your people. If you give them advantage over our tribes, then as a ruler, you're going to be praised. Any dictator that put a chicken in every pot are going to be praised by its people. So we need to start to turn education into a business. And then if we have education, then basically we can demand money for education instead of money for I don't know who or what kind of politician or president or king. Well, what do they need money for? Only one that need money is poor people and children. So maybe we can move on to that. We instead of me.